welcome to another episode of Connections. Although Classical Crossover magazine obviously primarily focuses on classical crossover, through this videocast series, we'll get to know different kinds of performers in the neighboring genres, such as Celtic music, Broadway music, who may have a connection to the classical crossover world. So today we're very thrilled to be speaking to the wonderfully talented Alex Sharpe.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Natasha. How are you?
Very well. How are you doing? I'm loving your background.
Yeah, I know. I'll tell you now, there's a story attached. I actually made that star cloth myself.
Really?
Yes, 680 odd fairy lights that I punched through, made holes for, punched through, and then you call it duct tape, we call it gaffer tape, taped on the back. So yeah, I'm very proud of it. I use this for I do virtual kind of house concerts from home online. And I played around with virtual, see, I'm out of focus. That was with my camera. I played around with the virtual backgrounds and they just all looked naff. They just looked really stupid. So it's like, no, I have to go old school. So
I love it. No, I agree, because like when you see on a call and someone's like half coming in and out of the fake background.
It's like illusion gone. So
you mentioned home concerts. Have you been doing quite a few of them? Are the people like live on Zoom then?
Yeah. So am I shouting? Sometimes when I have these headphones in, I feel like I'm shouting.
No, you're fine.
Okay. So Christmas time, well, of course, global pandemic and all of us are, out of work, but I don't know about for you, but it used to be kind of like my busiest time of the year, and here a lot of families would, they would save up for an event for Christmas time, whether it be like a pantomime or a musical, a touring musical or something. Or they'd always go out and see something. And it was a way for families to get together, around that Christmas time and to do something that was kind of special and they have a memory for. And so I knew of a lot of families that weren't obviously going to be able to get together, but also because of geographically, and particularly in the States, because there's such long distances, it's such a big country. So I thought I'll see if anybody's interested in doing, some Christmas house concerts. Would that be a good thing for their families kind of get together? And quite a few people were interested. So yeah, so that's what I did. I did those virtual house concerts, and they were lovely because I let them pick the set list. So I basically kind of give them about 50 or 60 songs. I said, pick 10, because the concert only lasted an hour. And I said, pick the 10, that means something to you, to granny, granddad, or the grandchildren. So there was kind of some in there that if there was kids there was some that the kids could join in. And maybe there was one that was particularly special for a couple or something like that. So they were very personal, very intimate, because, there's a lot of interaction. We talk back and forth, and I would kind of, certain songs to say, well, what was kind of the best Christmas present you ever got, or the worst Christmas, or what was your most memorable, or what, is there one that that was affected by a crazy snowstorm or something like that, just to get people just interact and just to kind of revive those memories and, kind of have a special evening together. So they were a lot of fun. I was terrified, I have to admit. It was a bit of an experiment. It was like, oh my God, how is this going to go? And thank God my brother emigrated the States about 3 years ago. So he was home, and he's a kind of a techie guy. And so he helped me get the mixing desk all hooked up into Zoom and everything, so they would have kind of a good sound. So yeah, I really didn't know how it was going to go, and it was a bit like, ugh. But it worked, and I think also because, there was no disasters, thank goodness, but I think people are so forgiving and also so grateful, they're not expecting, a fully produced show, and they know that people are doing things from home. And so it was lovely, it was very personal, intimate, and so it worked. So now I have some more scheduled. I actually have one tomorrow. No, not tomorrow, the day after. So I've obviously not Christmas ones, but different kind of themed ones. So that's kind of how I'm still able to do a little bit. Yeah.
I love that, because Classical Cross Magazine, we've been doing concerts, but it's all been pre-recorded because there's too many people and I'm scared of the internet, you know, like with that many different performers. But I think, you know, what you're doing is so great because I mean, I can imagine if you're a little kid, you're watching you on PBS and then you get to do this personal concert where you're talking to them. It must be such an incredible experience.
I don't know if any of the kids have even known who I am.
Oh, really?
No. No, it's mostly the kind of the adult audience that would have, you know, had some sort of they would have been concert goers, or they would have been, you know, seen it on PBS. They're mostly all kind of Celtic Woman fans, really. So mostly the clientele would be in the States, but a couple here, a couple kind of in the UK and Ireland. So that was nice. But yeah, no. And I don't think any of the current kids would even know who I was anyway, because I left 2010. I've been back a couple of times since, but yeah, nobody knows me.
So tell us, okay, I was really surprised to read in your biography, one of the first things you said was that you were very shy as a child.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised. Most performers that I've met actually are quite shy. I call myself, you know, I digress. Yes, I was very shy. I'm the only girl. I have an older brother and a younger brother, and I was the only girl, and I was super, super shy. I would literally be behind my mother all the time, and I would always listen into the adult conversations, and I wouldn't say a peep, and I would be super, super shy, and kind of still was for a lot of my life. But obviously stage changed. I was a whole other person on stage. I think that's why I ended up loving it so much, because I felt so at home on it, you know, and it gave me a freedom that I didn't have, a freedom to express myself in a way I daren't do, you know, as a child. But it's kind of easy to hide behind those characters, because most of my stuff would have been musical theatre. So yeah, so I was quite shy, and now people can't shut me up. But I call myself, not that I think I'm charismatic, but I found a label, because I am actually an introvert. I'm great in a crowd, but I'm only great in a crowd if I have to be in a crowd. Like I won't kind of withdraw, because I know that there's a certain expectation, but I call myself charismatic introvert. You know, I'm good with people if I have to be out there, but I'm not one of those people who gets their energy from being around people. I kind of get a bit drained. Whereas my mom loves to be talking to people on the phone all the time. She loves company constantly, whereas I refuel by a lot of alone time. Are you that way? I see you're nodding.
Completely.
And you're going, yes.
That's my husband. He's the little extrovert, and I'm the one after a big, because he has a huge Italian family. So after, you know, a big event, it's just like I'm sleeping.
Yeah. It can be hard work, can't it?
So what was some of your first roles that you did on stage?
Well, my very professionally, it was Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. But my first role on stage as a kid was Mary, the Mother of Jesus.
Oh.
In the Nativity. And I remember, I actually just thought about it the other day. I remember them saying, you know, you're not to move. You know how fidgety kids are. And I was so focused. I looked down at that little doll, and I didn't budge, and everybody kept saying, God, you were so good, you didn't move. And I was like frozen to, like, I just knew my one thing was to stay still, and so I did. Anyway, my first professional role was Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, and I actually was working as a travel agent at the time. I'd always, from school, had always kind of been involved in music in some way. I got involved in music because my brother said to me, we were in primary school at the time. I think I was around 9. And he said, you know, Alex, if you join the school choir, you get a half a day on a Friday from school and you get out of your classes. And I was like, oh yeah, that works for me. That works for me. So I joined it and I loved it. And at the time, my brother was actually a gorgeous singer and he was getting roles in, you know, the school plays. And then I kind of came along and stole his limelight. I don't know if he's ever forgiven me. He's hardly ever sung since.
Oh, bless.
I feel so bad. But yeah, so I started off in school and then, you know, I I used to enter karaoke competitions. That was the closest I got to professional, and I did that just to earn some money so I could go away in a summer holiday because I loved to travel. So I ended up being a travel agent. And then I was 19 and I heard on the radio that they were doing auditions for professional production of The Wizard of Oz in the Olympia Theatre here. And so I went along to that and had a week long, you know, of callbacks and stuff, and got the role. And the production manager on the show at the time was opening up an agency, so she became my agent, and I stayed with her for over 20 years. And so worked mostly here in Dublin, and then went away to London and toured with Les Mis, and then ended up doing another show after that, The Beautiful Game. Had my son, came home, did a lot of musicals and a lot of concert work. I did a lot of kind of concert work throughout Europe and Scandinavia, well, different orchestras, and then I ended up in Celtic Woman in 2008. So my background was very heavily musical theatre and concert work, and then ended up in Celtic Woman 2008.
So let's talk a little bit more about The Beautiful Game, because you were actually the first person to do that role, right? So did you get to work with Andrew Lloyd Webber? And
we did, yeah. We got to work with Andrew quite a lot. He was in the room, and Ben Elton, who wrote the play for it. So we did. He wasn't there all the time because they'd actually already workshopped it before.
Okay.
It had gone into production. So they kept some of the cast from the workshop. I was doing Les Mis at the time, so didn't even know about it, and finished Les Mis and heard about these auditions for Beautiful Game. So yeah, he was there, but he's actually quite shy as well. So he would kind of, you know, be kind of passing notes on to the kind of creative crew that were there, and you know, we'd kind of be getting passed along to us. The only interaction I can actually really remember with him is we were doing a scene in it, and it's called The Party. It's where they've won a football match and they're all teenagers having a party, and he said, can anybody play any instruments? And I joked, because I don't play any instruments, and I said, I can play the spoons, ha 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 ha. And he goes, oh, can you? And no, not really, because I had to learn them for a cabaret that I had done years and years ago here in it's called Clontarf Castle. And he went, oh, okay, let's see what you can do. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I just say? I can't even really play. I learned literally. So I started, did the spoons. Now, thank God, when it came to actual show, they had the percussionist play the spoons, but I started off. So that bit that's actually in the show is me very badly playing the spoons. So that was my interaction with him, and after that I said, shut your face, Alex, and don't say anything again.
Don't joke.
Just don't joke, don't say anything, just work with the director and do what you're told. But yeah, it's funny, I didn't realize, and I don't think I actually really appreciated what a unique experience that was. It was quite overwhelming at the time, and we worked a lot, and we rehearsed a lot, even when we had opened, because they're always kind of changing things. So I think we were all kind of quite tired and stuff, and then we got into the show, and but looking back on it now, that was actually kind of a really good show. There's a lot of really good music in it, but yeah, we only actually lasted the year in London. At that time, they also the foot and mouth thing happened, so a lot of the tourism was really affected in London, and I think it was so different to what people were expecting from an Andrew Lloyd Webber show. The context of it was quite serious at times, although there's a lot of humor that Ben Elton injected into it. I mean, you literally go from laughing to like a kneecapping, in the same scene. And so I think people, when they were coming to see something like that, I think they were, for one of his shows, I think they were looking for something very kind of spectacular, as in production-wise, visually, but this was really a drama with music. And so a lot of the people in the industry loved it, but I don't think the general tourist knew I don't think it was quite, I think they were really looking to escape. I don't know that they kind of really understood the politics of, in the north of Ireland during the 70s and stuff. So yeah, but fantastic to have been part of something like that, and to just kind of see it evolve. Yeah, great. An amazing experience. Amazing. And it's funny, actually, at that time, well, no, I won't. I'm going to shut up.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, it's funny because when we were kind of, they actually did have a cast change in the works after our first year. And I was planning on leaving after that first year. And they'd put out the idea. So this was 2001, 2002. And they put out the idea that they wanted to bring in cameras in backstage, and they wanted to basically put it out on the web. So literally, you know, everything like you're seeing now, and you're doing it, and everybody was so scared of it. Nobody really wanted to do it. And it was quite, you know, forward thinking back then, but it didn't take off. The cast didn't really go for it, but they wanted to do something to kind of get people interested, because the audiences just, you know, they just weren't coming out, you know, as they hoped they would, as I was explaining. But yeah, funny that, you know, somebody was very kind of visionary at that time to do that. And as we know, you know, look at it now.
So you mentioned doing a lot of concerts and that sort of stuff. Were you kind of aware of Celtic Women before you joined?
I hadn't actually seen anything. I had heard of it. It's funny, actually, when they did their show here in the Helix, or was it the Helix, I think it was. I was actually doing a show in the Gaiety, a musical called The Wiremen. And as I was driving in to do the show at night, I would see these big posters, big billboards for them. And I knew of Lisa Kelly, and I knew Chloe as well. Not that I'd worked with either of them, but I knew of them. I actually used to dep, and I know Chloe's mom, and I would have stepped in now and again to teach in her stage school a few times. So I just would have seen Chloe in passing. I didn't know anybody else in the group, but I thought, that's brilliant, that's fantastic. And I think they had they done the PBS? I think this might have been after they had kind of gotten big with the PBS special, the first one. And so knew of them. And then I just thought, that's great. It's fantastic for an Irish group, you know, to be a success in America. And then got a call from David. And I'd worked with David years and years ago, but David had been in recently at the show that I had done, because he was good friends with Shay Healy, who wrote the music for it, the musical, and also kind of wrote a couple of the Eurovision Song Contest winning songs. Nice. So they knew each other. And so I was kind of fresh in his mind. And then, of course, Lisa was having Ellie. So that's when he contacted me and asked me if I would come in. And we would she would have been kind of involved in musical theatre too. So he probably thought they're kind of, you know, similar background, similar kind of voice. And so, yeah, so then I started to watch it, and I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. It's so perfect. It's so perfect. I was very intimidated. I thought, it's so perfect, and it's so pure, and it's still and very, you know, and I hadn't really done that. Musical theatre was just a lot more expressive, and you know, and it's a lot of storytelling, obviously, because your character. And so I was very scared going into it, but they were great. Everybody was so supportive, and David and Andrew were lovely. And so they made it easy for me. They really did. And then I still felt a bit out of place for a while, because the fans of Celtic Woman are so loyal. They're so loyal to whoever is their favorite, you know, and I don't think they knew what to expect with me coming in. And I don't think they were ready for anybody to step into Lisa, because they love her. And so it was scary on that level too. But they were lovely. They did welcome me in, and they did warm to me. So it was like, okay, all right. But it was so crazy. The first show that we did, like, musical theatre, the show was musical theatre. You know, people back then, when I was in musical theatre, we weren't kind of celebrities. People came to see the show. The star was the show, yeah? And at the first, I think we were in Texas somewhere, and the first couple of notes of the, you know, of the Sky and the Dawn, I think that was the opening number for that tour, started, and the audience went, "Wah!" And I was like, oh my God, what is this? It was like insane. And then when we went out on stage, they were all with their, you know, with their banners, and "We love you, Chloe, we love you, Orla," and all this stuff. And this was like, oh. It was so different. It was so different. So it took a little while to get used to that, but fantastic too, but very surreal, very surreal.
So I actually saw you at Radio City. I think that tour when you stepped in for Lisa.
Oh, wow. 2008. Yeah. Wow.
So it's so cool.
Yeah. Have you ever had the chance have you ever been in there? Have you ever performed in there?
No.
Okay, well,
tell us what it's like.
Well, no. This is not a bragging story at all, because God, I'll never be back on that stage again. But that is such a hard space to play. It feels endless when you're looking out, on that auditorium. It's really hard. That was one of the hardest spaces I felt to work in, even harder than some of the arenas, because it just feels like it goes on forever, and it's just a hard space to feel like you're filling. You feel like one of those tiny little spots trying to fill this big space. But yeah, incredible. I mean, just insane. how often does that happen in your lifetime? I really know how blessed, it was to have that opportunity. And actually, when I was about 17 or 18, I was in New York doing this really weird thing. I was involved in something, a video that was being shot over there. And I actually have a picture of me. Maybe I was 18. I think I was 18. And I actually have a picture of me outside Radio City Hall going, like, look at this, the famous Radio City Hall. You just don't know where life is going to take you. You really don't. But I'm very aware that it's a very unique opportunity and a very unique blessing in my life. Crazy.
But as a soloist, you've performed with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, which is just legendary. So what was that like?
I'm going to be completely honest, everybody. Terrifying. Terrifying. Very, because my mom joined the Mormon church when I was a little kid. So I'd kind of grown up listening to, or at least knowing about the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. And as a little kid, to me, it was like, oh, this is God's choir, and they're so well known. That show, Music and the Spoken Word, is one of the longest live broadcasted shows every Sunday morning. So yeah, very thrilled and very terrified, and very, very, very terrified. And it's recorded super early in the morning too.
Oh, bless.
So yeah, I was looking forward to that. So I went to bed super early the night before. But yeah, incredibly, and they're so gracious. They're so lovely, and the orchestra, they're all voluntary. All that orchestra are voluntary. Like, nobody is paid. That is all voluntary. And Mac Wilberg was amazing. They were just so giving, so gracious, so supportive. And there was a lot of Celtic Woman fans in the choir too, because Salt Lake City was always a stop on the tours, in the spring tours. So they were very well acquainted with the group. So they were lovely. They were just lovely. But yeah, absolutely terrifying. I don't even like watching that performance, because I can hear I'm really pitchy, and my nerves were bad, really bad. So yeah, but funnily enough, in that space, I was really hoping, because it was done in the summer, the choir move over to the conference center in the summertime, because they have a lot of tourists come, so they move into that bigger space. But the best sound is in the Tabernacle. It's much smaller. And have you ever been there, Natasha?
I haven't.
So if you do ever get to go there, do the tour that they do of the Tabernacle. But when it was built, the pioneers, a lot of them were ship builders, and that was their trade. And so it is actually built like in like this dome shape. It's kind of like the bottom of a boat, and it's all this. It's just all, I think it's like tongue and groove and all this jointed wood. But they do a little kind of a test thing when they're taking you around on the tour, and they go up on the pulpit and they literally drop a pin, like a sewing needle on the pulpit. No amplification, no artificial sound or anything like that on. And you can hear that echo in that whole space. So that sound is insane. But when I was in the conference center, I could barely hear the choir behind me.
just the change of acoustics.
Yeah, could barely hear them. And I was expected to hear this big, to kind of be wrapped in this big hug of this amazing Mormon Tackling choir. So that was a little bit disappointing. I was like, oh, I barely hear them. And I was like, oh, I really feel like I'm on my own out here. But yeah, it would have been nice to do it there, but they only go in there in the winter. But yeah, amazing to do that too,
Do you find it's different when you're performing, like more Celtic Woman songs and performing really like the hymns and the faith? Do you approach it any differently?
I don't think I approach it differently in kind of my craft, but I do feel when it comes to a sacred music, I feel a great sense of responsibility, because I really do feel like a representative. I do feel like I'm kind of representing the Lord. So I feel kind of a mantle of responsibility. So I always pray if the responsibility is left for me to pick a hymn for, a sacrament meeting. I did something recently for our stake conference here. And so I pray about it to make sure that I'm picking something that the Lord wants people to hear, a message that he wants them to hear. And I always just pray and I say, don't let this be about me. Just let me be, kind of like a vessel that you can, talk to your children, to let them know and let them feel what you want them to feel. So it feels like a very, like a sacred kind of responsibility. And I feel a lot like that kind of mantle of that, because I feel like it, not as mouthpiece, because that would mean I was a prophetess, and I don't think that, but I do feel, it's what's it, the song of the righteous is a prayer unto me. I mean, hymns are like a prayer, and so to me it's very sacred. But kind of like the storytelling of it, like the beginning, the middle, of the and end, and the emotional journey of it, I think is the same for me, because I think you have to approach it with the same honesty you would with any song. How do you find it? I can see you nodding. I'm like, I know you're identifying with what I'm saying here. You relate to this.
No, I mean, like what you said, the songs being like a prayer. I mean, I relate to that so much. My dad was a pastor. We were actually Seventh-day Adventists. So like growing up, hymns is such a big part of your life, and it's just like such a big part of faith, and I think in a way, like you're saying, it's like it's the same kind of thing. In another way, it's kind of like you're being even more vulnerable, and then it's also like God takes all the praise. So it's just, I don't know, there's nothing like singing sacred music. I think it's quite special.
And I find I'm actually more relaxed, most relaxed. Do you find that? Yeah because it's not about you. You know that it's not, there's a certain amount of expectation, with performance, you've kind of, you've got to hit the bar certain degree, but there isn't that. I don't feel that same kind of expectation. People are coming there for a different reason. They're not coming there for me, not that they're necessarily coming there for me for anything, but you know what I mean? No, I don't think so. Yeah. Oh, it's good to hear, to know, that that's how you feel too. Yeah.
And so your first album was after Celtic Women then, and it's kind of mainly faith, and then you also have the lovely My Heart Was Home Again.
Oh yeah, I put that one on kind of as a last minute thing, really, just because all the Celtic Woman fans were like, were expecting something that they knew. So that's on it. That's a gorgeous song, actually. So that was the first one, and really that album was kind of my way of saying thank you, God, really, because honest to goodness, I can see his hand in my life and the opportunities, and just not the coincidences, but the strange things that I just couldn't deny weren't part of some higher, that there was definitely some divine intervention in certain things in my life. And so it was kind of like my way of saying, thank you. I know that you have made this happen. I mean, I had to turn up. We all have to turn up, but after kind of you do your part, it's out of your hands, and I do believe that there's, has definitely been a divine intervention in my life, and so many times, you know, in my career. So it's just my way of saying thanks. And also, life is hard, and I think we all, you know, none of us are without our trials and our struggles. And I think it can be easy to get discouraged and to feel like we're alone, to feel like, you know, no one understands what we're going through. And I wanted people to feel that they weren't alone, and that, you know, that there was a father, a spiritual father that was there for them. And so, yeah, that was my motivation behind that.
And then when did Karanua start?
When did we start? 2017. Yeah, and originally we were hoping to just really do corporate work, you know, but then we, again, through kind of a connection in Utah with me, I had been working over there and had crossed paths with somebody who, his name was Jason Tonioli, and he was a piano player, and he had a lot of hymns that he wanted a voice on. And he originally had just said, you know, would you, you know, put vocals down? I went, I could, but I've just started, you know, formed a group with a former Celtic woman, a friend of mine, and I think it would be so much nicer if you had three voices on it. I think that would be, you know, a lot more interesting and beautiful. And so we ended up doing an album with him, and then at the same time, so we ended up working with a producer there called Chuck Myers, who had produced Jason's. And at that time, there was a theme park opening up in Utah called Evermore, which is a totally immersive, it's a bit like being on a huge big theater set that you walk through, and there's actors out there, and there are all these different characters, and so you're submersed in this story and you're part of this story. And so we ended up providing a lot of the music all around the park, because they had 3 different seasons or 3 different festivals. They had so the Aurora was the Christmas one, and Mythos was the summer one, and why can't I remember the Halloween one? It's gone out of my head, but that was the one, and it was all based on Irish folklore. I mean, Halloween comes from Ireland, so we did a lot of the installation music for it, and kind of Celtic kind of sounds and stuff. So we ended up down that route, you know, kind of being more of a commercial group. Yeah, we were mostly just hoping to do corporate work, but yeah, and then the pandemic hit, and here we are.
I love that hymns album you do, because like for us, since on Sabbath we only listen to like spiritual music, so whenever I find like a hymn album, I'm so excited, and I love it. So gorgeous.
Oh, there's the one with Jason Tonioli.
Yes.
Yeah, there's some of you. Have you heard the Celtic Dreaming album, the Karanua album?
No, not the Evermore one, right? I don't think so.
No, so we released one was it last year or the year before? It's called Celtic Dreaming, and it's just all Karanua. It's pretty good. We were kind of happy with that one. Yeah, I think you'd like it. So that's just us. It's not with Jason or anything like that. It's just us. It's called Celtic Dreaming. Original.
And how do you like working with those 2 ladies? Are you the one doing the arrangement, or is it?
No. I wasn't. Well, I ended up. Lynn is an absolute genius. She is incredible at arranging parts for voices. She's also put together an awful lot of those tracks, but and then not all of them, some of them, and then Chuck would put on. He would really fill them out, but she would kind of like have a basic track, but some of them Lynn did a lot of the work on. I kind of ended up doing a lot of the managerial kind of side of things, but then also with Evermore, they wanted us to write. So I wrote. So there's quite a few songs that I wrote for Evermore, and Lynn did, and we wrote together, also Lisa. So there's a lot of stuff that is in the park that we all wrote together, and then stuff that we individually wrote, and the same on the album, which that was a real stretch for me, because I don't feel like a natural songwriter. but I was kind of pushed into it, and it doesn't come easy to me. That's hard. I wish it did come easy to me. It's hard work, and I don't even play an instrument. So they would literally just get me singing a tune, and here's me doing, and there's an ah here, and there's a this there, and yeah. So thank goodness they're all very skilled, and they were able to make what I did sound 150,000 times better.
I'm sure it sounded good to begin with, but did you get a chance to go through the park then and then listen to?
Yeah, we did. We were hoping, it was kind of on the cards that we might actually perform there for different seasons, but that didn't happen because the show or the park was still just really starting to take off. It started to gather momentum. It's the first of its kind, so it's hard to get it out there as well, but anybody who went loved it. And then of course the pandemic hit as well, so I don't even know how they're doing now. I mean, it's an interactive, immersive experience. You can't have any kind of group gathering, so I don't actually know how the park is, and so I don't know what is. But yeah, it would have been. If you ever get a chance to, if it's still open, I don't know. It's a very magical place, especially for kids, And they went all around the world. They collected all different. They went all to different, not all around the world, but mostly Europe. And they collected a lot of antiques. So there's a lot of. The detail is insane. It's not like a false front on anything like that. It's like they literally built everything properly. Wow. It's incredible amount of money went into it, and skill and talent. So
hopefully that's still open. I'll go check that out.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. And then when did you release Broken by Design? Because I remember downloading it, but I don't remember when.
I released that February 2020. Okay,
so right as this all started, yeah?
Yeah, I actually had some concerts planned out in Utah, kind of on the back of that of course all kind of didn't happen. So yeah, it was released at the beginning of the pandemic. It's just an EP. There's only 5 songs on that. Yeah. And
did you write the opening track, Broken by Design, or?
No, I didn't. That was written by a guy called Jim Hollister and Ron Saltmarsh. And Ron Saltmarsh arranged the whole album and produced it. The executive producer is a guy called Alan Kreutzkamp. He very crazingly believed in me and approached me and wanted to make the album. Actually, one of the songs on it is Thy Way. Well, it's My Way, but he changed all the lyrics to Thy Way, and it's a bit like a prayer too. So that was in 2020. So hopefully I'm hoping to get back out there again and to perform more. I've kind of gone back and forth quite a bit, just doing different kind of solo work out there, and also with another LDS artist called Jenny Oakes Baker, who's a violin player, insanely good, incredible. So yeah, I did quite a lot of work with her. And then there was I met her through composer and musician called Kurt Bester. Not too long after Celtic Woman, when I left Celtic Woman, I ended up doing his Christmas show out there. And so that's kind of how I ended up with working with artists from Utah, was through Kurt Bester and Jenny. And so I've worked and collaborated with a couple more as well.
And do you want to do more recording as
I would, yeah. Eventually, I to be honest, I don't really know where things are going to go. I mean, the space I have here was opened up as a studio to teach singing and drama. Of course, pandemic hit, and there's all this. We've been in lockdown now since the 27th of December. We've been in various stages of lockdown. I was actually speaking to some people actually in Clubhouse the other day, and they were telling me about that you guys are still in a lockdown there, and there's still nothing really kind of happening live theatre wise. But so this was meant to kind of have groups of at least 10 kids in here, which I can't even have. I could probably have 3 in here because you have to have 2 meters in between them. So, but now we've been on this lockdown since the 27th December. Supposed to be finishing the 6th of April, and then I saw a news headline come in to say they were thinking of extending it to June. I think there's going to be an uprising. But yeah, so I have this space. So I am teaching online at the moment, which is fine, not ideal.
Yeah.
But so that's when I also thought, you know what, I have the space here. So that's also another reason why I did the virtual concerts, you know, to be able to use the space. So I don't know what's going to happen going forward. Hopefully I'll get out to Utah again to do some more live concerts. But yeah, I'd love to record. Does anybody want to record?
Well, I mean, we'd love to hear more from you. And if you come to Utah, I'd love to come hear you too.
Yeah.
It'd be really great to hear you again live, doing your own stuff now.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see. I think it's going to come back eventually, you know, but we're a bit slow as well because our vaccine rollout is so slow. So we can't even really leave the country, you know. So to be honest, I think Irish people won't really start to be able to travel until late this year, but definitely 2022. So for me, I don't see me actually really kind of getting out of here to work until next year.
Yeah.
You know.
But until then, people can go book concerts with you, right?
Yes, I'm still doing, the house concerts, and they can bring in as many people as they want. They can go to the website, they can book them there. So I'm doing songs from Stage and Screen. I'm doing a Celtic celebration. I'm doing a Disney sing-along in the summer for kids, just a half an hour for kids concert, for kids parties. And also I'm kind of doing a mix and a match where they can just pick their set list as well. Again, kind of on the same as that kind of the Christmas concert thing where they just, you know, it's whatever. I actually did one there a couple of weeks ago for a couple who are in isolation. So I did a lot of kind of stuff from the Frank Sinatra songs. That's one of their favorite artists. So a lot of different kind of stuff like that. And then a couple in Germany, they both shared their birthday in the same week. So there were songs from their whole kind of life. So, you know, they're really personalized, and it's a kind of a bit like a concert and a meet and greet because there's so much, you know, back and forth. So it's different, and it's working so far, and they seem happy enough. And it's keeping me singing. I know I'd get very, very scared if I have to go back out on a stage. And so it's also challenging me too, because I'm having to learn new songs and, you know, kind of do different styles. So I'm trying to, keep myself kind of challenged while, you know, everything else is so quiet at the moment.
And then as far as your students, how does that process work? Is it like certain age groups or any age you can teach?
Any age. The youngest I have is 11. Okay. Yeah, so I've kind of done it. And then the oldest I have would maybe somebody in the 30s, but there's no restriction, you know, on that.
And they can book that through alexsharpe.com or?
alexsharpeofficial.com. Yeah, they can go to the website. Yeah, there's a shop page and it has voice lessons, and they can, it depends on what they want. They can do a half an hour, they can do 45 minutes, they can do an hour, whatever. It depends. I think for kids, an hour is too much, you know.
Their attention span starts to go.
Yeah, half an hour to 45 minutes tops. So yeah. How about you? Are you teaching? You must be teaching. I hate. I'm talking all about me, and I know it's an interview with me, but I'm like, what are you up to? What are you doing?
I used to teach actually, and then I quit. We were trying to buy a house, and I was trying to go back to school, so I quit. So I do like Monday through Thursday at an office job, and then I'm doing my music kind of over the weekends. So
good. Teaching is quite hard, actually.
I think the thing that's, at least for me, I don't know if you found that too, is because that's your main source of income when you're doing it. And if you get sick, sometimes like I would push myself to keep singing while I was sick, and that's not a great thing to do.
No, I actually know people who've actually suffered a lot of voice issues afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, I was like, I needed to take a little time to try to, you know, get myself back and do all that. But hopefully again someday.
Yeah, you have to really be kind of engaged. It takes a lot of focus, because not the same thing doesn't work for everybody, you know, so you really have to be paying attention, don't you?
Yeah, that's so interesting though, because like, you know, you'll get kids and you kind of have you know, your main exercises, but then there's the kids that challenge and you got to come at it from so different kind of ways to try and, you know, and it's
yeah.
I love teaching though. It's so fascinating. You go home, you're trying to like find a solution to this problem.
I know.
I love it.
I need to get better. I do. Because you know, because if I can't help them, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm failing them, you know? And because everybody learns differently and different things work. And that's why I find it hard as well on Zoom. I think it's so much quicker when you can actually demonstrate something and just being there in person, you know, they can see it on your body. You just learn so much quicker. They absorb an awful lot more by hearing something, you know. So if you've got any tips, send them my way.
No, I think just the fact that you're trying to do it in an individualized, I would say you're a great teacher. Because I'm sure you've had some teachers too that kind of fit you into a box. And I think if you as a teacher just trying to make that individualized and trying to work with, I just think you're fabulous. So.
Yeah, I find that they or the biggest thing I find I have to kind of try and completely take away from them is to get them to stop trying to sing like their favorite singer. And it's like, you know, they don't know what their own voice even sounds like, you know. And they also don't realize that all the stuff they're listening to is done in the studio. So some of these artists that are it's almost like they're kind of in between the notes, you know, it's very skillfully done. You got a kid trying to do it and they're singing flat or they're singing sharp. And it's like, stop listening to that person. Yeah, let's find your voice and just let's get the basic, you know, the basics there. And then let's move on. Yeah.
Or even listen to someone in your voice range, because, you know,
exactly.
Could be quite a thing, yeah.
Yes, and songs and stuff that you can relate to. You know, not about these. You know, you have a 11-year-old singing "I Dreamed a Dream," and it's like,
no.
Let's find something that you can relate to. You're not quite there in life yet. So, yeah.
It's definitely always a learning experience, always great. It was so good to chat with you, Alex.
Yeah, you too. Stay in touch.
Yes, and thanks for being part of the concert. So this will air by the time the concert's already been out, so everyone will have heard your lovely performance, but we'd love to have you to come back again and again.
Yeah, love to. Love to.
I hope you enjoyed today's interview. It was a real pleasure speaking to Alex. I did drop my tea at one point, so if you saw a really odd expression, that was it. But Alex was a trooper. She just kept going. So thank you again for Alex for being on. And you guys, I hope you enjoyed our big classical crossover collaboration concert. You can still watch that, even though it already premiered. We also interviewed Lisa Kelly, so if you are a Celtic Woman fan, we'll link that video for you also. Stay tuned because we'll continue to have more wonderful interviews. This month we have a special mini concert scheduled for you, which we'll be revealing more about soon. And we also have our Sound of Crossover series kicking off in May. So please go ahead and visit classicalcrossovermagazine.com to learn more about these artists and what's coming up next.